Thank you very much, Luis Gallardo. How can I thank you? You're an amazing, amazing person that have gone ahead and done some amazing stuff. And it gives me immense pleasure to introduce, what can I say, the father of happiness, shall we call him, Professor Sahasrabhude from India, who has helped us put on the map a brilliant initiative that we have taken, which is called Your One Life. And to thank you, while thanking you, Louis, I'd also like to introduce you first and foremost to Professor Sahasrabhude. Sir, the World Happiness Festival is the largest forum of happiness and well-being forum of happiness and well-being per se in the world. Uh, Louis has dreamt it and he has made it a reality. He's the founder and president of the World Happiness Foundation and the World Happiness Festival. He's the author of Capitalism and the Exponentials of Happiness. He's also the director of the Gross Global Happiness Program at the United Nations University of Peace, and he is a laureate of the Guzi Prize, Peace Prize, which is like the Nobel Prize of Asia. So, what can I say about you? I can't even possibly, as much as I will speak about you or about Professor Sahasrabhude, it's like holding a candle to the sun. Thank you very much, Louis, for encouraging us to be with you on this channel. Namaskar. And over to you, Louis. You can take it forward from here, please.
Thank you so much. It's an amazing pleasure having you here, Mr. Kochhar, and of course, welcome Professor Sahasrabhude, Chairman IT in India. And you are an inspiration for all of us and for us who think that education is that noble profession that is really an enabler for so many future potential in the world. What you are doing is an absolute inspiration. So very welcome to this inaugural session of the World Happiness Festival, especially focused on education. And I will love to compliment you and celebrate you here because you have created an important model for happiness. It's very important that you are here as well because the potential of what you can do in the world is just spectacular. As you know, the World Happiness Foundation has the goal of realizing a world with freedom, consciousness, and happiness for all. And during this World Happiness Week, we have more than 6 days of insights coming from all corners of the world. We have from John Holliwell, who is the editor of the World Happiness Report, to Deepak Chopra, a spiritual leader, to activists, researchers from IIT Kanpur, Harvard University, the Greater Good Science Center. Is so much that we have during this week. So having you with us here is very, very, very important. So with that, I invite you to share with the world what is the future of happiness, what is the future of education. Yes, Professor Sahasrabhude.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm indeed delighted to be here on the inauguration of the World Happiness Week, touching more than 8 million lives from March the 17th to March 22. Full 1 week of happiness.
The 8 million lives, sir, I may interject, is owed to you because you touch 8 million lives. And as far as the Happiness Festival is concerned, he touches billions, literally billions out here, sir. But, in as far as AICTE and your initiative is concerned, this is clearly seen as the biggest and the tallest initiative in the world of happiness. And therefore, congratulations to you, sir.
No, thank you so much for all of that. In fact, Professor Louis Gallardo, who has been the president of the World Happiness Foundation, has been doing all of this work. And Yogesh Kochhar, who is there on this platform, and myself met a few months ago. It's not even 1 year ago. And we were doing some work in the sidelines of what is all about happiness through our student induction program. I will come back to that again later, but we connected with each other, and then Yogi ji also called me for a launch of the book, and then we learned that his 6 years of efforts in creating an app called Your One Life. And he said, what a fantastic thing, what we are doing and what you're doing so much resonates. Why can't we work together? And that's how this app, which is Your One Life, which will promote students to come on board to see the various aspects of both left brain, right brain activities that we do. How do we connect with our families, our friends? We do that in the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but get totally involved in that and lose our real happiness. And therefore, how do we bring back the happiness of each one of them? That is the starting point. I think you rightly mentioned, Louis, that education is very, very significant and important for everyone. Right from the nomadic times when the human beings were all moving around to today, it is always the education which has created the new societies, civilizations. Art, culture, drama, dance, music, all of that emanates from ultimately education. And in our country, one of the famous sages, Swami Vivekananda, he defined education as the manifestation of excellence already in man. And that means each human being, when he or she is born, they are divine. There is something intrinsic already in them. But because we don't know, we remain ignorant. And that's why education is nothing but bringing it out, polishing it, exploring it, expanding it, blossoming it. And this role has to be played by the education sector, but more importantly, the teachers, because the teachers are the ones who are required to identify this and then nurture it and then bring it out. And this teacher doesn't mean a teacher who is there in the school or a college or a university, like Professor Louis, you and me in the universities, but even mother, when the child is born, starts teaching a kid, then the parents, then you have other siblings, relatives, all of them train, but finally in the formal education sector, when they come in at the age of say 4, 5, 6, depending on different countries, we navigate through the process of unearthing this. But here it is where we have to really provide that flexible environment, happy environment. If the environment in the schools is not happy, the child will never learn. The happiness has to be there and there must be no stress at all. And I'm very happy that the new national education policy, which has come last year, it's 2020 July, it talks about especially the primary education to be done in the mother tongue. That means whatever language you learn or study or speak at home, the same thing should continue. And all through variety of games, toys, stories, then child will get enthused with that. In the process, you bring values of life, honesty, integrity, and at the same time, the happiness. This should start from the childhood. And then when they come to the higher education, naturally we have our own role. And I must tell you that AICT is a body which is a regulator for technical education in the country. We have another body called the University Grants Commission for the universities taking care of remaining part of the education other than technical education. And we have about 8 million students who study under our umbrella. And we want first all of these 8 million students to be happy. And this should become infectious and go to the other part, the UGC and the remaining 3.5 crore students who are there in the other higher education sector in India. And subsequently to right from school, that means around 25 crore, it is 250 million students are there in India from school to high school to higher education. We want to touch the lives of all of them. But it's a process which will take a little longer, but nevertheless, a right seed is sown, and we only hope as we go along, this seed will grow into a sapling, to a plant, to a big banyan tree, providing this oxygen of happiness to everyone around the world later. In our country, we have another system of what is known as Guru Shishya Parampara. That means each student is always dedicating himself to the Guru, and the Guru will take care of unearthing that talent in the student. And therefore, this role of AICT, which though it was a regulator, we have transformed that into what is known as facilitator. Because teacher today is not a teacher who should give one-way traffic lectures, but we want intense interaction. Students must be in a position to think on it. They must question, they must introspect, they must self-reflect and come out with new ideas. And if you have to provide all of this, you cannot simply be holding a stick in your hand and be a regulator, but we must facilitate education. And that is where, whether it is curriculum development, whether it is, as I said, student induction program, when students join the college for the first time, freshman students are asked to go through a 3-week program where there are lots of intense activities other than curricular activities. You make them gel together, you make them collaborators, you make them to help each other, you make them to be happy not just in those 3 weeks but the rest of the life. All of that we were already doing in some form or the other. And meanwhile, this golden opportunity of Your One Life app came in, and therefore we have launched on to that, and I'm sure large number of students are already making use of it. We are going to even announce the happiness index of each of the students, and you created a global happiness index of the nations. Now we have for the colleges and the individuals. Each individual, when they use this Your One Life app, they will understand where they are going and the percentage of happiness that they hold. And then average of that whole set of students of that college will get a happiness index of the college. And we want to award those colleges for doing pretty well on the front of happiness. The education itself, which has again referred to the national education policy, is about multidisciplinary nature on one side, holistic and flexible. So students must have enough opportunity to select the courses of their choice. They must be multidisciplinary, even if they are in the domain of, say, medicine or in engineering. How can they also take the courses in music, maybe drama, maybe painting, maybe psychology, maybe economics, is what is promoted through this new national education policy. It also plays a lot of big role of not only teacher and therefore teacher training. And our role now in terms of developing faculty development programs when they are already in teaching profession, or when they are inducted, like students get inducted, we want faculty to be inducted into the institutions through a program called Faculty Induction Program, which has 8 modules, which give them all insights about their role as a teacher in the whole life. Their life cycle is about 3 to 4 decades, with they join around 25, 30 and remain up to 65, 70. So they must have engagement with students. Thereby, students should constantly be feeling happy, not get stressed, but at the same time, education is imparted. How do they become innovative? And therefore, another reform which we have undertaken is the examination reform. In the examination sector, many a times universities and colleges and schools set up questions which are based on memory. That means rote learning, and if someone is capable of remembering, he will get high grades. But when you ask where are you applying it, where is it useful, how is it to be made use of, and they are many times blank. And therefore our examination reforms talks about a lot of activities starting from not just memory based questions, which is very limited, but higher order thinking, maybe analytical ability, critical thinking, innovation, creativity. They are all embedded in the question paper itself. And this is a major reform which will create really churning out students who will be holistic, who will be overall personality developed characters, who will be useful to the society. Where we find that all the students who come out of the education finally get into the society. They will be taking the positions in administration. They will be taking the positions in colleges and schools as teachers or vice chancellors or presidents of the universities. They will be also in the sector of creating jobs through entrepreneurship. So wherever they go, how they can be morally on high ground, they are ethical, honest. This seed has to be sown that it is not money and money alone which will give you happiness, but it is the other thing. So therefore, when we test students on our what is known as IQ for a long time, intelligence quotient, fine, we should test it because we want quite bright, intelligent students to come out of the universities. But along with that, we started talking about emotional quotient, how empathy is generated, how you connect with the rest of the people in the society, and thereby you become happy and you can also make others happy. But we have graduated further to call about SQ, which is social quotient or spiritual quotient. If someone is going through the journey of spiritual quotient, then they will always be happy and they will make others happy. They will emanate happiness. I think this is what great sages in our country, behind me there is Gautam Buddha statue here, and we have found that the entire world has been given the lessons of why we should be introspecting ourselves, be meditating, and even if some problems are there, we must be in a position to overcome them much easier if you feel yourself happy. And therefore, this whole World Happiness Foundation, the task that you have undertaken, Louis, is great. Compliments, congratulations to you. And so also to Yogesh for developing over a 6-year period an app which can really make you to sort self-introspection. You don't have to much do anything. Your score and various parameters on which where do you stand in terms of the colors, green, yellow, red also will give you an indicator as to where are you, whither are you going, and thereby you can always do course correction and we can move ahead. But one more interesting part is some people do ask questions. So people are already gravitated to various types of social media, be it Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and spend hours and hours on that. And you are creating another platform where again you are coming on the internet. So how does this solve? In fact, it will complicate the life further. But the problem which they don't understand is that in Facebook and Twitter, we are only looking at how many likes I have got, how many people have appreciated me, and keep looking at how many have shared my tweet or my Facebook post. Whereas here, no one is going to do that. You have to do yourself an exercise. Have you talked to your friends? Have you done some exercise today for your health? So we talk about wellness. So for wellness, you have to put in some effort. Are we putting that effort or not? If you are not putting, it will keep on reminding that today you have not done exercise, your score is low. So why don't you pop up your activity so that you will be able to do it? So I think these are the various parts which we have been undertaking. And I'm closing or ending with a small message to all our viewers that during the pandemic in the last 2 years, we have all gone out of the schools, out of the colleges, because everything became online. And therefore, we have learned how to work on online mode, but we must come back again to the schools and colleges, meet people with each other, and that is the real life. This is a virtual life, whether it is AR, VR, or internet, this is virtual life. So how can we make part of the virtual life as a real life and make use of it? The technology has two sides. How do you make use of that technology for betterment of our education, for our happiness? But at the same time, don't fully only depend on that, but come back and mix with the people in the society so that we understand each other well and we create a society which is a happy society, which will give happiness to the whole world. And that is what our ancient scriptures talk about, two things. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that means the whole world is one family. That is what today United Nations says, world is one family. And then Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu, which means the whole world be happy. It is not myself to be happy, but I should make my surrounding happy. The entire, not just the human beings, but even animal world to be happy. Not only the animal world, the plant world, that's why the environment to be happy. And how can we do that? That we can do it only when we go through the app, self-introspect and keep doing our work with due diligence I'm sure we can do that happen. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your wisdom. I wonder, Yogesh, what do you think about these wise words that are full of hope? That's the way I feel. When I listen to you and sharing what the philosophy, what the science, and what the sage is here for, I think my heart is full. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much.
Louis, you rightly pointed him out as a sage, and he not only does he look like a sage, he thinks like a sage. I do not have the words to express just how good I feel in terms of or in terms of developing this app for over 6 years, as he pointed out. And I wasn't able to make a crack with a lot of people. I would take it to people, and they would say, "Yeah, it's all right," because people just did not have the mind share at that point in time. But my first meeting with him, and in precisely 3 minutes time, he was in, and he said, "This is brilliant, and we must take this forward." He spoke about the spirituality quotient, and inspired by him, as a matter of fact, we created a link as part of those 12 aspects, and we called it My Conscience. People do not understand what their conscience is all about. They don't talk about their conscience anymore. We're all, the more, the studies reveal that 4.5 to 5 hours of a person's wakeful life is spent only on the phone or on the internet. Well, the phone statistics say 4.5 hours. Internet, etc., would be even more than that. So, there is absolutely no time to think of anything else other than just continuing to run this rat race, which has unleashed itself upon ourselves. Also, I found that, with the metaverse that's coming into our lives now, and the life becoming even more complex and complicated, it's going to be a challenge for a lot of people to be able to understand, hey, where is it that they stand? And in the bargain, most of us will end up losing our coordinates. This entire social media science of Facebook and Twitter, etc., basically goes ahead and aligns itself with our own purpose to be seen, to be heard, to to be acknowledged. I reckon that's it. That's what it's all about. And people go ahead and make these small tribes where they're more self-congratulatory than anything else. They do not have any real impact on a person's real life as to what is it that a real life is all about. And it was basis that we went ahead and created Your One Life. And I can't thank respected Professor Sahasrabhude enough for having come up come up so beautifully about the whole thing, and being so encouraging about the concept that was presented to him. And he said, sure, it must go ahead and make a difference to the lives of all the people in the country. And with that, and you're familiar that we are also in touch with the United Nations. You will shortly also be meeting with Professor Phoebe. United Nations came forward, and they said they pointed this out as a remarkable feat, because this is the only app which objectively and not subjectively goes ahead and calculates happiness. The purpose of life is happiness. The purpose of education is happiness. The purpose of profession is happiness. The purpose of money is happiness. How beautiful it would be if we could go ahead and weave happiness into my pocket, into my college, into my environment, into my friends. And it was basis that, Luis, how can I thank you for hosting Professor Sahasrabhude to inaugurate the World Happiness Week, which is a milestone achievement. And as far as India is concerned, under the aegis of Professor Sahasrabhude, I cannot thank you enough. Over to you, Luis, for any question that you might have in terms of how will it impact, what is it that you can do, what is it that we can do together with the World Happiness Foundation. And I invite you also to come to India simultaneously and be able to host you here. Over to you, Luis.
Well, thank you so much, because at the World Happiness Foundation, we are about interconnection and how we can bring science with sage a consciousness with subconsciousness together. And I think that when we combine the expertise and the experience that you all have here, I think that we are really creating something that is going to be and is going to have a major impact and positive impact in the world. So with that in mind, I would love to continue the conversation about how we can impact these 8 million students, how we can expand this to their families, because we know that the concept of the extended family that you have as well in India is very, very important. So we can start with the student, we can keep moving with the families, and we can extend to the extended families as well. And with that, we can have a ripple effect. So I was wondering, Professor Sahasrabhude, what do you think about how we can get this ripple effect? Do you think that what actors do we have to invite into this journey of transformation, positive transformation towards happiness?
Professor Louis, transformation to happiness ultimately will start from within. But we need to first make them aware that there is something like happiness which will come through a process. And for that, maybe a lot of awareness workshops on the app which is developed on one side, or various facets of life. You rightly pointed out that it is not just your profession, your money will give you all happiness, but your interplay with the society, with other friends, your relatives, your parents, that is what signifies happiness. You feel happy when you meet with people. And I'll just give simple example. Forget about human beings. We have a small doggy in our home, and whenever guests come to our home, he is so happy. But when they go home, go out from home, and he becomes sad. He doesn't eat sometime for a day. So I think the human being, or for that matter, life itself, always revolves around meeting with each other, understanding each other, helping each other, collaborating with each other. I think this phenomenon can only be explained through a certain example and workshop, and giving them the tools that will make them really happy. And from a word of mouth, they will spread this word that because I went through this whole process, I have become happy. I've seen umpteen number of people in India who are in so much of busy schedules, they don't get time for their own families or anything. And when they go for sessions on meditation and then self reflect by sitting quietly for half an hour, there has been transformation in the lives of those people. I think the same thing can be replicated all across the world. Why only in India? The whole world.
Thank you so much for that. And with that, Yogesh, Mr. Kochhar, why don't we give an advice to all the viewers? If we have to start with one thing, where do you start? I think that we all agree that inner being, the inner peace, is definitely the way forward. But how do we actually achieve inner peace? What would you recommend?
So, I think I think we are all sailing in the sea, where we are sailing in the sea without our anchor. We're also sailing in the sea and we've lost contact with our moor. So we have no mooring and we have no anchor. Our minds have become terribly sliced. This entire activity, to my mind, started 25 years ago when MTV came into our lives. And MTV started cut pasting images so fast that the mind went ahead and picked up pace with it. And then mind became breathless. And in its state of breathlessness, mind forgot what was happening, where it was that it had originated, or where it was that it was wanting to go. So today, if you were to ask most people something that changed my life, for Dr. Harold Bloomfield, who I met in Maui, Dr. Harold Bloomfield has been an amazing author. He's done about 9 million books on happiness alone, and a great sage, nearly 85 years of age. And we tried getting him on this, but he's in a different space altogether. So he asked me just two questions that changed my life. How much do you want, and what for? Most of us have not been able to answer those two questions. Most of us seem to be running this mindless race for more and more and more, not realizing where is it that it'll stop. So he asked me when I had a beautiful offer from Microsoft to go ahead and do something else. He said, ask yourself these two questions. And if you think you have gotten what you have and you know what it is that you have it for, please go ahead and quit your job. And the nature itself is going to show you the way forward. Now, that was very audacious at that point in time when he suggested something like that to me, but I still did it. And I'm glad that nature showed me the path to meet with respected Professor Sahasrabhude, who in turn went ahead and gave meaning and substance and sustenance to this entire application. And you, Louis, how can I thank you? So my takeaway is this, that rather than going ahead and looking outside, there is a conscious need for us to look within. The unfortunate part is that in the world that we live in, which is driven by technology, there hasn't been another tool that enabled us to look within. We go to seminars, we go to conferences, we listen to people, we read the same type of stuff in most of the happiness books, but there wasn't one objective app that went ahead and chronicled our path and our journey to happiness. So rather than looking outward, I would think it is more about looking inside. I would like to thank you, Louis, for having us on this meet. And thank you. How can I thank you enough for having Professor Sahasrabhude inaugurate this very auspicious uh, happiness week that you're looking at creating? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining, and I hope that you have an amazing rest of your life, not just a day. So thank you so much, and see you also. Take care.
Yeah,
Bye.
wish
Thank
you
you.
all happy life. Happy life.
Thank you very much. Pranam.